There's a housing crisis in Seattle. A lot of poverty. We went to Georgetown Tiny House Village to see what's up.
Projects always happening at the village. That's why there's a lot of materials around. There's always something that needs to be done.
This is Andrew. He showed us around a little bit. Showed us what it's like down here. And it was pretty interesting.
Case manager is here. You can see the tiny houses. We have kind of a unique layout.
There was surprisingly a lot of houses, and they were in great shape.
Like country and your neighbor likes rock and roll, we could separate that a little bit.
There are a lot of people here, and a big need for housing.
If you guys want to be in the same cluster, we can help keep families more together.
Aside from the tiny houses, there was also a community area.
We have like a sitting area here that we kind of collapse, and then when we're doing a community meeting, we do 2 a month. And so the villagers that live here get to vote on things. They pick leaders, and those leaders make decisions. As like a resident staff person here, I just kind of help train those leaders and give them advice on decisions. But we have 60 adults, 1 child, and 18 pets right now. Like any type, we're basically one house with 40 rooms. And so, do you think that if you leave your popsicles in the fridge, they're gonna last very long? No.
There was refrigerators and ovens and a lot of stuff, food that had been donated, as well as like hand washing stations. Seattle, one of the richest cities in America, seems to be struggling with the ability to manage the amount of people who need housing.
So we have a couple contractors here. Injured on the job, don't have medical insurance, guess what? Now you're homeless.
They were working on having 2 different showers, but the water was currently off to these areas. There were so many people here and so many tiny houses. You'd be surprised to, find that Seattle is one of the richest cities in the United States. Since 2007, the estimated number of people without permanent shelter rose up to 47% in Seattle. Washington State is among the 5 states with the highest homeless rates of unsheltered veterans. 32,494 students. He lived here with his girlfriend. They had a lot of eclectic things that, I could see myself having in a tiny house if I lived in one. This was another person who we met in their tiny house. They wanted to be left anonymous, but as you can see, the living situation here isn't that bad.
This is the best living situation I've had in 5 years. The way that we do it now incentivizes people to have no responsibility and to view themselves as complete, totally helpless victims of circumstance.
Can I smoke weed in here?
You shouldn't.
These aren't permanent housing situations.
Yeah, so as a system, as a program, that 100% is the goal. So if someone ends up being at a tiny house village for a year, is that a failure of the program? I think it's more indicative of a failure on the other end. There isn't enough affordable housing. People with higher skill sets, higher functioning individuals fall into homelessness and end up at a tiny house village, that it is a boon to the community of the village. And at the same time, that person is going to be less likely to qualify for the affordable housing as it exists.
I think that since a lot of these people come from different parts of the United States that might be more economically disadvantaged, that this model of a tiny house village could be reused to make actual permanent housing and sustainable communities.
So I definitely think that you're right on the deeper future of tiny house villages. That really, just like we really need to kind of resettle some of the middle of the country, and especially more progressive kind of people really need to do that, and instead of concentrating in these small areas. So I definitely think that doing more tiny house villages, even if it isn't for homeless people, it's just for unstably housed people, that where they're just being exploited by a landlord or a property owner. That kind of community living, more like an intentional community, is a very good idea. But at the same time, the villages as they exist in Seattle are not intentional communities. The people that live in them were often coerced by police in order to, don't be here, maybe we'll give you a spot here. And so you cannot start a community with coercion by power to force you into it. That it has to be by choice.
So what villages?
So in Seattle, all of the tiny house villages, there are 9 of them, and now one in Olympia, that all of them are of that nature. Some of them might be able to do, like North Lake Village, Othello Village, they can do a walk-in intake. So if someone came up and said, I want to be here, then you can be there. But the thing is let's say I'm a college student and I don't have a lot of money, but I'm not quite homeless yet. Maybe I've been sleeping on my friend's couch. Then technically they should not accept you into the village, because its purpose is to offer shelter to people who are homeless. And I think that when you look at someone who is unsheltered, putting up a tent and trying to, not get wet from the rain or survive because they don't have a place to go, what would have people have thought about that 200 years ago, 500 years ago? That would just seem like, yeah, of course. And so now it's criminal, because everything must be owned. Everything is a commodity. You can't do this. And it's all based on economic value. Inside the tiny villages, there are valuable lessons that are being learned that are not being looked at, carefully enough by a lot of people.
Not far from the light rail station in South Seattle, up Brinton Avenue, and in Rainier Beach, is a park that I have grown to love throughout my lifetime, Kubota Gardens. Surrounding the gardens are some stunning natural areas that are now at risk of deforestation.
And if you want some good pictures, Miles, go over there and look at the injection capsules of the herbicide that was put onto the bark. And so this, and all of the section of the tree that went that way was removed, and this section was left. And then the Parks Department decided to kill it.
Yeah.
So it's been poisoned.
This is Michael Oxman, a local arborist and tree activist.
This tree grew 4 feet in 1 year.
Wow.
3.5 feet in 1 year. Last year, this tree was this tall, and then it grew this season to be this tall. 1 year's growth. This tree is healthy. This is a native conifer tree, and it belongs here. Do you think that most of the people in Rainier Beach know that this is a proposal? No. Do you think that the people outside the area, like in Columbia City, know that this is?
Well, I didn't know until yesterday, and I'm a tree activist,
So maybe this arborist report would be a way to build community awareness about the state of our environmental protection laws in the city of Seattle. Here we are in Mapes Creek at Kubota Natural Area, part of a Seattle City Park in southeast Seattle, right near Lake Washington. And we're up against the Kubota Garden. And we have a property owner that's a neighbor that wants to build 9 houses. And we have just walked around the edge of his site, and we found many trees that are protected under Seattle ordinance. They're called exceptional trees that are over 30 inches in diameter. And those trees are not shown on the building permit application filed by the developer with the Seattle Planning Department. So we want to get a public meeting here where the developer comes to us and allows us to ask him questions about what he's planning and what the outcome is going to be. And we'll be able to make comments about the environmental degradation caused by bulldozing a 500-foot long area of all trees. That's why we're out here today at Kubota Garden.